Okay, today's class we're going to be looking at Docker. So, I don't know. What do you guys understand about Docker? Any understanding? What understanding do you have about Docker?
My understanding of Docker is a software. What is it used for? Uh, I can't even find a word for it, but it's like
Okay,
Ansible and Terraform,
okay,
like help, that kind of area. Thank
okay.
you.
Is there any other person that has like a personal understanding of Docker?
Excuse me, can you bring yourself?
Yeah, I said, is there any other person that has like an understanding of Docker?
Yeah, I get a fair understanding of Docker. It's what I was shell. It's a strip down. It's basically they provide you with a strip down
Okay,
OS that you can run your applications on.
okay,
It is a lot lighter than a VM, a
okay,
virtual machine, right? So and you could run it, and you could have like 6 or 7 of them running with different things you want to test out, or even if
okay,
different
okay.
applications you want to use.
Yeah. Okay, is that your explanation of what you understand about Docker?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Is there any other person here that has an understanding, one or two, about Docker? You can just say the way you understand it.
Okay, I think my basic understanding about Docker is I don't know how to actually put it. uh, uh, will I say it's almost like AWS or any what do I call it, cloud provider. I think
Okay?
it's something like that that you can pull some infrastructure and they can run on the
Okay.
Docker. I think that's my basic understanding of it.
Okay. Um, so is there any other person with an understanding of Docker or any little understanding you have about Docker? Okay, so it seems that there's no other person. So looking at Docker, Docker is a very simple tool. I get what I'm saying. And Docker is basically like, for instance, you take your VM that you currently have, that's the Vagrant. I get what I'm saying. Just exactly how your Vagrant is. But now you can now like easily deploy it using containers. So containers are like very light infrastructures that you can easily just deploy and easily delete. I get what I'm saying. And the most important thing you need to know about Docker is this: the commands. I get what that's the most important thing. The command is what you need to know about Docker, right? What is Docker PS? What does it do? What does this command do? Well, if you have all your Docker commands with you, I don't think you have any problem. I get what I'm saying. I don't think you have any problem with Docker. Docker is a very easy to use tool. Where it becomes a little bit difficult is when you start looking into Docker files. Are you getting me? And Docker Compose. But we'll get to those in a bit. But first, we need to first look into Docker, right? So Docker is just like every other tool we have used back. What's it called? Every other tool you have used in Ansible, Terraform, they are almost similar. But now Docker is very useful when it comes to Kubernetes, because when you are trying to use Kubernetes, you try to basically call an image. I get what I'm saying. So, for instance, when we're trying to build up your Vagrant machine, you use a particular image to build up the Vagrant machine. You use a particular. It was Ubuntu Focal 64 you used, to build up your Vagrant machine, your Ubuntu machine. So the same thing also applies to Docker. So Docker also have images. Their images, their containers. How it works is when you create a Docker file helps you create an image. Are you getting what I'm saying? The image is what you use to create a container. So I hope that's understandable, right? And you can also pull containers from the Docker registry. So there are like multiple containers on Docker registry. If you need Ansible container, if you need Nginx container, if you need Vagrant container, if you need um, Apache container, everything is present in the Docker registry. I get what I'm saying. So Docker is a very very important is a very important tool, right, in the DevOps space because number one, it helps you pack your code. So if you have like a bunch of code that you're writing that help you do a particular thing, you can just use a Docker container to pack everything, or a Docker image rather to pack everything. And anytime you deploy that image, it creates a container, right, with every single state you basically stated in the image or in the Docker file, which helps you create the image. It automatically brings everything to life. I get what I'm saying. So just see it this way. You, for instance, now on AWS, you can do snapshots, right? Like we did in the what's it called? What task was that we did? We had to create a snapshot. It was in the in the project, in the mini project, I'm guessing, right? We were able to create a snapshot. So a snapshot is just like taking a let's say a screenshot of the exact state of a particular machine. I get what I'm saying, and storing that state. So anytime you can use so when you want to create another instance that is exactly like the one that you took that snapshot from, you can just use that snapshot to create an image. Are you getting me? You can use that snapshot to create an image and use that image to start up the instance. That's just almost the same thing that is happening in Docker, right? But now you have a Docker file that helps you create an image. So in your Docker file, you can state whatever you want to state in your Docker file. Do you get what I'm saying? Right? For instance, now in your Docker file, if you want to basically launch Apache, right, you can write out all the whole commands in your Docker file. That okay, I want to launch Apache, I want Apache to be exposed on port 80, right? And you can basically just create the image. Then when you create the image, that is just the image. The image is, you can store the image in a registry, either on Docker registry, or if you have a personal registry, right, you can store it in your personal registry. Then anytime you need that image, you can now pull the image down. Are you getting what I'm saying? You can pull the image down and use that image to now create a container. So from that one image, you can create multiple containers. So you see the flexibility of Docker, right? And these containers are not very heavy containers, unlike your VM, your virtual machine that you have on your system right now. Those ones are very heavy. They are basically taking like about 3 gig, 4 gig or so. But a container can just be about 300 MB. Are you getting what I'm saying? So it is very, very light. It's very easy to use. It's flexible, right? And because of the use of the images, you can easily deploy a container anywhere so far Docker is installed on that system. Are you getting what I'm saying? So all these things is very, very easy. And when you start moving into the Kubernetes space, you really stop using any local kind of, what's it called? Any local kind of VM and all this kind of thing, right? All those things will now look like outdated to you because now you will be focusing more on Docker. That's why Docker is very, very important, right? Because it works very well with Kubernetes, right? You're trying to build a particular thing and you need to pull a particular image that has um all your codes present, right? And an execution that helps you execute those codes present in your Docker image. And when you run the image, everything just come alive. So that's just the whole idea of how everything works. Right. So now Docker Compose is a little bit different, but it basically still does the same thing, right? So Docker Compose is just like a list. So for instance, now Ansible, right? You can list out different tasks that you want to do. That's exactly just how Docker Compose is. It helps you list out um, all the specifications you need for. Okay, so if you're trying to create multiple containers, I get what I'm saying. So for instance, you have a you have different images. One image is for your web server, right? And you have another image for your database, and you want to write a specification, right? Or you want to write a particular code that connects everything together and that tells your web server that, okay, this is the database, this is where you're supposed to be storing the data into, right? Then you use Docker Compose. Are you getting what I'm saying? So in the Docker Compose, you can basically just state out, okay, this is the file that we have. This is the name we want to give this Docker container. This is the port we want to open. So instead of just typing everything automatically on your command line, you can put everything inside Docker Compose file, right? And once you run that Docker Compose file, it just automatically does the same thing to help you put everything live. So all these things work the same way, right? They all work the same way, but you just need to understand how it works. So let's take a look at. Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen now. Okay, so hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So let's take a look at a Docker file. Okay, so what how this works, right, is basically okay. Okay, so this is how this works. You the So in every Docker file, there is always a base image, right? Only if the Docker file or the image you want to create, right, out of that Docker file is does not need a base image. So you have to start with a from. That's why most Docker files you see has a from at the top, right? Because this is the base image from node 14 Alpine 3.16, right? This is the base image that this image that is going to be created from the Docker file is going to run on. I get what I'm saying. And now you can see that they already stated the working directory, and the working directory is automatically to this part, right? So you can just tell Docker that, okay, out of all the parts that are present on my container, I want to make sure that the container has one specific working directory, and that working directory should be /app. So any command you're running after this working directory will automatically be running inside this /app, right? And now you have the copy module. So this is where this gets interesting, because this copy module basically helps you copy all the files. Maybe in a particular directory that you're in, you want to copy all the files that are there to your container. So it's a little bit confusing, right? But you might be asking, oh, the container is not yet created. So how do you copy the files from your local machine to the container when you have not created the container yet? So that is what an image is for. You are copying the current files that are present in your directory, in the current directory that you're in. That's why you have this dot. If the directory is in another place, you write the path to the directory here, right? And you have this dot, which means that you want to copy it to the same part, right, in your container. Are you getting what I'm saying? So when you copy this to your container, it is basically just copying to your image, because this is the Docker file. All these things are going to automatically execute on your image. Then when you launch the image, it takes effect on the container, right? And here they are doing npm install. So the run command can help you run certain commands, like just like your CLI. If you are running the mkdir, you can use the run command. And the cmd, right, helps you run specific commands, right? Like for instance, they are using the cmd to run npm start, which is also like a node.js command that helps you basically start all your code and every other thing, right? um so I don't know, do you guys have any question? Is there any question so far?
Hello, mentor.
Yeah.
Just one small question. So, what use case can make us use this?
You said what?
I said, what use case can make us use this?
Okay, so
What you just explained now.
what use case can make you use this? For instance, if you have like a set of code, like I said before, that you want to duplicate, right, among or you want to create in different containers um over and over again, right? So you have a Kubernetes cluster that is running, right? And that Kubernetes cluster is going to use a particular image, right? And the image is going to be created in different nodes, right, for availability, so that you can be able to use your Kubernetes cluster to access these nodes to balance the load across all these nodes. I get what I'm saying. And all these nodes are going to have like a container on it, right? This is the use case where you'll be using this, right? Because now you have all this in your image, right? And I told you that before you can create a container, you need an image. So this is your image. You use this image to spin up all those containers that you have on your Kubernetes cluster. Are you getting what I'm saying? So I hope that is clear.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so let's now look at the Docker Compose. So like I said before, the Docker Compose file is just like you trying to run like a normal Docker command on your terminal, but now you're trying to arrange everything, all those commands in a particular file. So okay, this is a private. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to look for like an example that I can use to show you how a Docker Compose file is. Okay, so as you can see here, this is like an example of a Docker Compose file, though this is very short, right? Um, at the first point, you have your services. You need to state this, right, in every Docker Compose file. Then what you write here, which is web, in this case, is going to be the name of the compose that you're going to be creating. I get what I'm saying. So this is like the ideal name, right? Then you have the build. This build and this dot basically means that you need to put the exact parts where your Docker file is present. Are you getting what I'm saying? So if the Docker file is present, is in the same directory as the Docker Compose file, you can just put dot here. But if it is not in the same directory, you need to write out the full part here, right? And for your port, you need to write out your port. So, like I said before, just like you running a Docker container or spinning up a Docker container, right? Or a Docker image, or creating a Docker image using a Docker file. The same thing also applies to a compose file. So a compose file is just like the same thing you are doing on your terminal, but now you're now converting it into a file. I get what I'm saying. And down here we have Redis, and you can see that they stated the image that they want to deploy, which is also Redis Alpine, right? Which is the image name. So so this is basically the like idea of Docker Compose, right? So it's, Docker is the whale and the Docker Compose is the octopus, which actually means that, and you can see it's carrying all these containers, just gives you the idea of, okay, it helps you basically deploy your containers. I get what I'm saying. So if you have a list of containers you want to deploy, you can use Docker Compose to deploy it, right? Or you have list of images you want to create, you can use Docker Compose to create it with the specific port, with the volumes, and also um with the database also. So everything can be in the same file, in just one specific file. I get what I'm saying. And this is actually useful because you can transfer that file anywhere and run the Docker Compose anywhere than just writing everything on your terminal and not getting access to that code again. So it's way easier. So I don't know. Do you guys have any questions so far? And
Yeah, I noticed in that in the doc in the Docker
yeah,
there's I see YML there. Is it a YAML file?
Docker is not a YAML file, right?
But no, I see when you was on one of the page, it show you YML somewhere along. I think if you scroll there, go continue. I think on the other one, the other page that you was on, the other tab,
Okay, okay, yeah.
yeah,
It
you
is
see
Docker Compose. Yeah,
compose.yam
it is Docker Compose file that is written in
create a file.
YAML, right? It's written in YAML, right? So
Oh,
Docker Compose, it has to be written in YAML because if you look at all the whole indentation, this is where also
yeah,
your spacing comes to play. Yeah, it has to basically
it
match
looks similar to play
to Ansible. Yeah,
it looks similar to play
yeah,
the
it looks
Ansible
similar to
playbook.
Ansible.
Yeah.
So if you make any mistake here also, you also get an error. I get what I'm saying. So yeah, and another thing is about Docker Compose and Docker too is volumes. I don't know if they've explained volumes to you guys, but volumes is just like saying you want to mount a particular part on your machine to your container. Are you getting what I'm saying? So it's just like mounting a particular part on your machine to your container. So if you want the part slash var slash www slash html that is on your container, that means all the files that are present there, if you want it to also be present on your machine, then you use volumes to mount it. Are you getting what I'm saying? So the same thing with ports too. So if you have like a service running, maybe like Apache, right? And Apache is by default open on port 80. So now the question is, how do you access port 80 from outside your Docker or from outside the system you are running Docker? That's why you need to mount that port to the port of the system that you're on. So if you're using Vagrant or any what's it called, cloud providers instance, right, you can just mount it to the port of the instance, maybe on port 80, right, or on port 443. I get what I'm saying. Then you can now mount port 80 to port 443, and you will definitely be able to get access to the web server that is running on your container from outside your machine using the IP address of the instance that the container is running on. Are you getting what I'm saying? So I don't know. Do you guys have any questions so far? Is there any questions so far? Is there anything you don't understand? Is there anything you need like a clearer view on?
Yeah, I. This is the second time the issue of volume is coming up.
Yeah.
So in the live class, I didn't really understand, but I think if I understand, I want to get clarity about this issue of using volumes.
Okay, so you're having issues with volumes.
Yeah, I'm having issues of where to use it. Sort of, I think maybe like if you just want to pull an image and you don't want it to store anything on your machine, you will not use volume, right?
Okay, so the main
But
use of
maybe if you want it to store a path, a file, or something
yeah,
on
the
your
main use
system,
of
that's when you
volumes
use
is
volume,
for
right?
data recovery. That's the main use of volume. So, for instance,
I didn't get that.
I said the main use of volumes is so that you would not lose data. Maybe data on your container, right? You don't want to lose it, or you want the data on your system to reflect on your container. So, let me give you like an example now. Let's say you are running let's say you're running a particular database. I get what I'm saying. You're running a database, and the database basically like stores like maybe users and their password on a particular directory. I get what I'm saying. Now, and that directory is only available on the container. I get what I'm saying. So now, if that container should die, you won't be able to have access to that to the directory anymore. That means the directory that holds the users and their passwords, you won't be able to have access to that directory anymore, and that is basically loss of data, right? And you can basically solve this issue by using volumes, right? So now that directory, that part where the users and their password is being stored, you can basically mount it to your local machine, which you know that okay, this machine is going to be here for the next God knows how many years. I get what I'm saying. It's not like a container that can easily just die and be created again, right? This is something that's going to be here for a very long period of time. So now you can now mount that part to your machine, right? Which is to your computer or to your VM, right? You can mount that part, and even when the container dies, you still have access to that directory. I don't know if you are getting me. So when you create another container, you can still mount that same part to that container, and the container will automatically sync to the current data that you already have. I don't know if you understood what I just said.
Yeah, I understand part of it, but the way me I learn, when I'm beginning to hear something like when I could pick it from the live class and
Yeah,
I'm picking it here again, I know that I'll focus on this thing until I understand how it works.
yeah.
So
So that's just like the
I
main
I
use
think
of
for now
volumes.
I've picked something from your explanation, but yeah, I might not be able to pick everything, but yes, I understand. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
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 this
we
is
can move
similar
on.
like
I think
using
for
a
now I
flash
can
drive
say I
also.
understand.
you said what?
Is this similar like if you have a flash drive, like if you want to use a drive, the volume is similar to like would push that thing on a flash drive or on a
Exactly.
special file
Exactly. So that's
folder.
also another way. So if you
Okay.
have like a video on your laptop and you want to save that video on a particular driver or a particular flash, right? You can just plug in your flash to your laptop, save the video on the flash, right? And if your laptop should crash, you still have access to that video, right, on the flash. So now you can now go to another laptop, plug that same flash into that laptop, right, and you can still access those videos. So it's just exactly the same thing. It's just the same thing. Or you want to share a particular data or video to multiple laptops. Are you getting me? You can put it on a flash, connect it to the first laptop, copy it, put it on the second laptop, copy it. The same thing that happens with volumes on Docker. But it's just that their own is more faster. So I don't know. Do you have any other questions? Is there any other questions you guys have? And also there is a Terraform tax that dropped, right? So you basically work on those tasks, and yeah.
I'm still trying to submit my two things by Friday. So I'm have slight difficult, not really difficulties. It's like more when you're running my Terraform plan. I'm getting some file errors in order to get me. I'm not getting to go through the plan. The plan and getting to spin up right into so I could do the apply.
Is
So
this
that's my
the
issue.
error you showed me?
Yeah, I get that one resolved, but there's a
Okay,
second
okay,
one I'm having.
okay. You
The
can just
second one
resend
I'm
it.
having.
Resend it and let's see. Um, yeah. So does
So
anybody have any other questions so far? So this silence, does this silence mean that everybody understood everything I said? Yeah, please
I
let
have
me
a
know.
question. Okay.
Okay.
I have the Docker I have the Docker app on my laptop. So
Okay.
when I open it, I just have if you could go through the screen with us and let me know if you want to create a container, this is how we go through it and those so forth.
Is
Like
it
actually let me see the Docker app open.
okay? Are you trying to use the Docker app?
Yeah, I have it on my desktop, but I when I open it, I can't. I'm not familiar with nothing that is here,
Okay,
right?
so
So,
but you understand the Docker terminal because that's like the most important thing.
oh, the Docker terminal.
That's
Well,
the Docker on CLI.
this I only downloaded it while you were. So that is actually the first time I'm
Yeah.
actually
I
looking
understand.
into it.
But I would advise you to mostly use CLI, right? Because it is way faster, and most companies basically focus on CLI, not the Docker app.
So,
I get what I'm saying. So it's
oh,
better you
so
understand those
so
commands manually, right,
so
than using just an app.
oh,
So the most
so
important thing is
the
is when you
CLI. So rather than downloading the actual Docker desktop, you look for the CLI.
no, you
Well,
download
what you
Docker
look for to
on
download?
your command line. You download Docker on your command line and use the exact commands.
Oh,
If you are creating a Docker file, you know how to create a Docker file using the terminal, not a Docker app, because that's the most important thing.
okay.
Yeah.
So basically, it's basically using VS Code and user extension that they have probably look for the Docker extension for the VS Code.
No. I mean on your terminal, right? How you install Apache, how you install Ansible, right? That's exactly the same way you install Docker. I get what I'm saying.
It's still quite
So
I
that's sudo
kind of
apt
lost.
install docker dot is it io or co? Yeah.
Okay. So it would go on one of the terminals. So you would only have to do that once,
Yeah.
or
It
every
is
time
on
you.
your no. You just have to do it once. Just as the way you download Ansible and the rest is once you download it, right? You don't have to do it over and over
Oh,
again. It's just once.
or Docker CLI. Okay, I will research it and see.
Yeah. You can unmute your mic, please. And
Good evening, mentor.
yeah, good evening.
So, so what's the relationship between Ansible, Terraform, and Docker? And can we use both? I mean, the three of them to run deployment like what we've been doing with Terraform on AWS?
Uh, These three are very important. So let me try to just explain how they can all work together. So you are working in a company and you need to create a particular infrastructure. Are you getting what I'm saying? You need to create a particular infrastructure and you use Terraform, right, to create that infrastructure, either on AWS, GCP, or Azure, right, depending on your company's need. You create infrastructure and now you need to install certain things, right, on that infrastructure and edit certain things on that infrastructure. Okay, that's when Terraform comes in. I get what I'm saying. You were asked to, okay, use Terraform to create a cron job, right? That does so commands every Monday. I get what I'm saying. That automatically backs up all the whole data that's on the servers every Friday using cron job, right? And you also
That'll be
use
Terraform or Ansible.
Ansible. You also
That'll be
use
Ansible. I
yeah,
can't hear
that's
it's the
Ansible.
Terraform.
That's Ansible.
It's
You also
Ansible.
use Ansible
Okay.
to update, right, this infrastructure. I get what I'm saying, right? So now where Docker comes in to play is, your company now says, okay, you know what, the backend, right? The backend are done with the code that they're writing, and they want to basically pack that code and they want to deploy it. I get what I'm saying. This is where Docker image comes in. So you can use a Docker image to pack the code. Are you getting me? And when the code is packed, you can now use Kubernetes. Although Kubernetes is not part of this tree yet, you can now use Kubernetes to say, okay, let me use Kubernetes. I create a cluster, a Kubernetes cluster on this infrastructure. I get what I'm saying. And on Kubernetes, I now use Docker, which has all the backend code to now update the server. Even without Kubernetes, you can still package all the code in Docker and go to this infrastructure and install everything. I get what I'm saying. You can just use Docker to create an image, right? After creating the image using this backend code, you can now create containers for this image on your infrastructure, right? And these containers can now be connected to or can be connected to the IP address of the instance. I get what I'm saying. So now you can now use like a load balancer, right, on the infrastructure that you have created, right? So that load balancer will now be taking all the whole traffic that is coming in and be balancing the load across all your um, servers that you have, right? And inside all these servers, there are containers in them. So that's basically where everything is on the container. And these containers are now still the volumes of this container are now mounted on each instance that the containers are inside. So I don't know. I hope this is clear. Yeah, you on mute your mic.
Yes, it's clear. But one more thing,
Okay.
if we are using load balancer to balance the load on the instances,
Yeah.
then what is the work of the DNS and the domain name server?
Okay. So the DNS and the domain name server is what basically. So for instance, companies. Okay, let me put it this way. No human being can remember the load balancer or a particular load balancer. Not all human beings can. I get what I'm saying. So that's why, for instance, you have Facebook.com. I get what I'm saying. You have WhatsApp.com. You have Instagram.com. Because if they were to put their load balancer there, a lot of people won't be logging into Instagram every time. I get what I'm saying. So it's just the domain name is just a name, right? That a lot of people can relate to, right? So you put the domain name out there, then you connect the load balancer to the domain name. So when they're coming in from the domain name, they automatically, just like the way they would just take the load balancer and put it on the browser, they're automatically coming in, right, with the domain name. But now they know your domain name, so they can go to the browser and just type facebook.com, and automatically you appear on Facebook page. But there is a load balancer behind all those things that is still balancing the load across different servers, right, and managing the load. Yeah, you can unmute your mic, please.
Yeah, that's mentor. I'm just finding out from my understanding what you're saying, the load balancer basically would hold the IP addresses that would link to the domain name.
You said what?
The load balancer is holding the IP addresses that linked into the domain name.
Um, Not really, right? Because the load balancer, okay, let's see. You have three servers running, right?
Three servers, it will get the three IP addresses.
Exactly. Those three servers
So
have
those
IP
IP
addresses.
addresses
Those IP
would be
addresses,
in the load balancer.
not exactly, because the load balancer will not actually connect to the IP addresses. The load balancer will basically connect to these three instances. I get what I'm saying. It connects to the instances, but basically there's no specific way or how they show how the load balancer basically connects to the IP addresses. I get what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I
I
won't
thought
say
it
it's
was straightforward as that. I thought it was just the IP addresses and the load balancer.
yeah, it connects to
And
these
the domain
instances.
name is linked to the IP addresses.
It connects to these instances, right? Then these instances are connected to the load balancer, and the load balancer is connected to the domain name. I get what I'm saying, because it's load balancer
Okay.
that
Okay.
basically balances the load across these three instances.
Hello, mentor.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that now means that load balancer and the domain name does the same thing, but the load balancer works within our local machine, while the DNS works on the URL, web URL for global usage?
You can say that, right? But when you start moving deep into Kubernetes, you start realizing that you can now create paths under a domain name. I get what I'm saying. So you can create different paths under a domain name. So it basically really doesn't, will I say do the same thing? But for now, yeah, you can say they do the same thing, right? Because depending on your use case or how you want to use it, you can say they do the same thing, right? So the load balancer actually does the same thing as the domain name. If you take the domain name and you put it in your browser, it basically routes to the load balancer, and the load balancer routes to the instances, right? So yeah, they do the same thing. You can use your load balancer to access your web applications. You can also use your domain name if it is connected to the load balancer to also access your applications too.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, is there any other questions so far? This is 2 minutes to the end of the call before the class ends. Okay, so at this point, if you have any questions so far, or if you have any question after this call, you can basically just ask in the mastermind group, right? And yeah, I'll definitely answer or reply to you. So this is going to be the end of this class, and also the Terraform task that I gave. I'll be giving you guys 2 weeks to work on it, right? That'll be from next 2 weeks. That's when we'll be looking at a solution to it, right? So you guys will bring your solution and explain exactly how you got to every step, right? And what every step does. So yeah, have any questions, send it to the mastermind group. Okay, so if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, you can basically subscribe now. Yeah. So right here, this is our YouTube channel. Just click on the subscribe button and subscribe to our channel, and also you can also turn on the post notification for all, right? So that you get every notification every single time we post. So yeah, see you in our next video.